Some analysis of top schools. MIT, Stanford, Berkeley, Caltech, UIUC, GATE, Michigan, Purdue, Cornell, Princeton, CMU, UCSD, Wisconsin. These are the top schools in US in STEM. Out of these there are 4 in Midwest: UIUC, Michigan, Purdue, and Wisconsin. All of these, Michigan, UIUC, and Purdue, are high-ranked schools, however in very small college towns in the middle of nowhere. Wisconsin is okay. UIUC is in Urbana-Champaign, which is a very small rural town in the middle of cornfields where nothing happens. Purdue is in West Lafayette, which is even worse. Absolutely no life outside the university. Michigan is in Ann Arbor, which is a nicer cute little town which has some nice active scene, yet it is highly driven by mostly white Midwestern undergrads and is an island in the middle of a conservative state, and same is true for all these schools. Wisconsin is in Madison, which is also a rural predominantly white town driven mostly by white Midwestern undergrads. All these places are extremely cold in the winters, which is 5 months in a year. Out of these, UIUC, Michigan, and Purdue are highly ranked schools with some top people in there and attract a lot of international students and are thus good places for international students to go, as it is harder to make deep connections with locals. Moreover, as you do a PhD, you realize you gel better with academic people, so it makes sense to go to highly ranked schools only. Wisconsin is a rather low-ranked school, and you will get less smart people there. These Midwestern schools, however, have a little laid-back culture and more emphasis on fundamental research and less pressure to publish. Midwest generally has a very nice culture where people are nice, warm, liberal in the college towns, although not necessarily outside, laid back, but it is very different from cultures elsewhere such as Northeast, California, or the South. These places are so cold that it seriously affects your academic performance for the time when it is winter there. There is very little life outside campus in these schools. The closest big city is Chicago, which has some interesting things happening but is few hours away. Even in these top schools, as it is true in every top schools, many faculty with permanent positions don't care about what papers they are writing and if it is worth thinking about or if it's going to help students' career, etc. They are using students as cheap labor to write papers. For them it is a job with no boss on their head and the smartest people coming from all over the world, dying to apply for positions there to write papers for them, so they can enjoy their lives. In the Northeast we have Princeton, MIT, Cornell, and CMU. MIT attracts the best students from all over the world and it is a privilege to even study there. However, the culture in MIT is cutthroat, where many times there is more emphasis on doing sexy research instead of fundamental, publishing papers, applying for grants, etc. And currently there are very few faculty who are doing very fundamental work in EECS. Most of it is on the applied side. Boston is a great city to live in with decent sized population and one of the smartest people on the planet living there. However, it get bitter cold here in the winters. Princeton is a very small town close to NYC. It only has university campus, so no life outside school, although NYC is 50 minutes train ride away. Of course it gets some of the best minds of the world. It is moderate cold in the winter, not as bad as Midwest or Boston. Cornell is in Ithaca, a small town in New York State. No life outside campus and very isolated from the world, as NYC is the closest access to civilization, which is 3 hours away. Very cold in the winters. But one of the smartest people on the planet. CMU is in Pittsburgh, which is a decent-sized, Midwestern town, with CMU being one of the top universities and has some of the smartest people on the planet. In South/Southwest, we have UT Austin and GATE. GATE is ranked higher and UT Austin is an okay school. Both have better climate, hot summers, US Southern culture, which is nicer people but can be redneck if you go outside the main cities. Atlanta is a bigger city, but Georgia is a very conservative state, and Austin is a mid-sized city with a growing population, and Texas is super conservative. South in general has a very different feel to it than the rest of the country. Southwest US has Berkeley, Stanford, Caltech, and UCSD. Stanford and Berkeley are top-notch, where they get the best students from the world. Stanford has startup vibes as it is right in the middle of Silicon Valley, so many people not surprisingly start a startup or join industry, and it is less academic in the sense the culture is more of doing practical research or go to industry and make money. However, there are some very deep theoreticians at Stanford. Berkeley, on the other hand, is quite the opposite. It is very academic and very theoretical with very hippie left-wing vibes. It is more relaxed and again gets the best students from all over the world. Both Berkeley and Stanford are close to / in San Francisco and the Bay Area that gets the best talent from all over the world. Great places to have a campus, great weather, and close to a big city, and very talented people. Caltech is in a great place near LA. Has a mix of very theoretical and practical, in EKI. UCSD is a mid-ranked school. Has excellent weather near the beach. Decently theoretical and practical mixed. Has more of a Midwestern school vibe. EPFL ETH INRIA Cambridge Oxford Eindhoven TU Delft. EPFL and ETH are one of the top schools in the world, probably at par with top 5 US schools. Both are very theoretical with some practical research too and are getting more market-driven like schools in the US. This can be both good or bad, as many times market-driven means more emphasis on sexy research and publishing in hot conferences such as NeurIPS instead of more fundamental research. On the other hand, many times people in the guise of fundamental research write papers that are useless, or their students aren't competitive enough in the market or getting any jobs. Switzerland is a beautiful and highly developed country, and Zurich and Lausanne are great places to live with good climate. Especially Zurich is more multicultural and diverse. However, Swiss local people are known to not like diversity as much. It is debatable how open these places are to non-EU nationals. INRIA in Paris and in general in France are great institutes with some of the most theoretical mathematical research across the globe. The culture in France is very socialist, with permanent jobs and focus on fundamental research. It can be laid back compared to US or even Switzerland. French love their wine. The salaries are very low, due to which it attracts less of global talent as senior researchers. Except for Paris, these institutes are in smaller towns and could be hard to live in for international people. Paris has good climate. Cambridge and Oxford are decent universities which again focus on fundamental research. They are less market-driven and focus more on fundamental research. The salaries are very low. TU Delft and Eindhoven are good schools with some deep theoretical research. Europe, other than Switzerland, tend to have permanent positions and are mostly socialist countries with more relaxed culture. INRIA in Paris and in general in France are great institutes with some of the most theoretical mathematical research across the globe. The culture in France is very socialist, with permanent jobs and focus on fundamental research. It can be laid back compared to US or even Switzerland. French love their wine. The salaries are very low, due to which it attracts less of global talent as senior researchers. Except for Paris, these institutes are in smaller towns and could be hard to live in for international people. Paris has good climate. Cambridge and Oxford are decent universities which again focus on fundamental research. They are less market-driven and focus more on fundamental research. The salaries are very low. They are in smaller towns about 1.5 hours away from London. TU Delft and Eindhoven are good schools with some deep theoretical research. Both are in small towns less than 2 hours away from Amsterdam. Europe, other than Switzerland, tend to have permanent positions and are mostly socialist countries with more relaxed culture. Note: in any school, it is mainly about 1. Your field and advisor, 2. The people around you, including fellow students and professors, in your department and other departments, 3. Culture of the department and the place, and 4. Living conditions, such as climate, life around, etc.